Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So the latest poll is out and the Democrats' approval rating as a party is 21% with 70% disapproving. That is abysmal. This is from a very, very liberal pollster that is very likely overestimating liberal Democrats and independents in their poll, but it doesn't matter. The Democrats are completely broken as a party, and a lot of people are just fed up with the way that they've been reacting to certain things that should be slam dunks for them to either support or ignore. They're coming out in opposition of it, and it's really hurting them as a party ahead of 2026. And they don't have a clear leader. We understand that. The whole thing is a big, abysmal mess. It's a big mess while Donald Trump is trying to get the Republican Party on the right track. And we'll get into some of the polling with Trump's approval rating as well, because the polls tend to be all over the place. What is his actual approval rating? Is it the 47% in the aggregate? Is it, some of these polls that have him in the green? Is it some of the polls that have them in the red? We're going to dive into that, but really quickly, I have to tell you guys about our great new friends over at Chalk, because our country just witnessed Donald Trump overcome political persecution, an assassination attempt, and the entire deep state to retake the presidency with a historic victory. There's one secret little ingredient that allowed him to do it, and that's testosterone. What most people don't realize is that testosterone makes men willing and eager to take on challenges. Sadly, too many of us have lost our fight, and that's exactly how the globalists want it. They want us weak, out of shape, and full of estrogen and microplastics with low T, and that's why we're excited to partner with Chalk. They offer a whole lineup of products formulated to increase your energy, focus, detoxify your body, and clinically studied boost testosterone. Ingredients in the Chalk Male Vitality Stack have been clinically studied to boost free testosterone in 87% in just 21 days. Unlike with gimmicky vegetable pills or powder, you will feel the difference, and they have clinical studies to back it up. And right now, you can get 25% off your Chalk subscription for life. Just go to chalk.com and use the promo code REDEAGLE at checkout for 25% off any subscription for life. You can cancel anytime. The link will be in the description and pinned comment down below. But folks, this approval rating for the Democrats is downright abysmal. That is worse than George Bush's approval rating, Bush Jr., after 2008, after the financial crisis. He was in the high 20s. They're in the low 20s. And it is one poll, but this is also the same poll that for some reason shows Donald Trump's approval rating to be 38%. They clearly are an outlier in favor of the Democrats, but still they could only get 21% of Americans to approve of the Democratic Party. Think about that. Now, people will say, well, why are you not acknowledging the top line is legitimate, but you'll acknowledge something like this is legitimate? But the difference is that if the top line is bad for Trump, that means that the poll is oversampling Democrats. It is not accurate that Donald Trump has lost a quarter of his support since the election. That's absurd. That's ridiculous. Quinnipiac has a tendency to do this. They've been proven wrong time and time again. And you have polls in the aggregate that show them up by 11, up by 8. You can't pick and choose, one, but disregard the other if both are outliers. You either disregard both, throw them in the aggregate, or just acknowledge that, both might be a little bit on the upper side or lower side. If anything is accurate, I believe that Donald Trump is positive. Rasmussen's poll is almost certainly more accurate than Quinnipiac, even if it is a little bit lofty for Donald Trump. But still, if the same poll is showing Trump to be down by 16, it should also show the Democrats to be doing better than expected. But it shows the Democrats down 49. That is awful. That is abysmal. That means they're very likely down like 50. Even among Democrats, they're not doing so hot because the party's in disarray. They're demoralized. And when you look at what they are doing in their leadership. Remember, it was so incompetent that they put somebody like David Hogg in power because they thought, oh, he can appeal to young voters, which he doesn't have much appeal there. They said he could appeal to men. He does not have much appeal to men. It's even questionable if he even is one. But Nate Plastic, even of all people, was even calling them out when they decided to remove him. And they didn't remove him because they realized they made a mistake. They removed him because, oh, it's, DEI. He wasn't DEI enough because they need one to be filled by a man and one to be, filled by a candidate of any gender or a woman or whatever. And they didn't exactly feel as if he fit their quota that they needed. So, it does seem as if now they're gutting him. They're kicking him out of the leadership. It's over for him. But still, they did it for even more incompetent reasons. And even if Donald Trump's approval rating is 46.8%, that's still higher than double what the approval of the Democratic Party is. And when you look at these polls, they can't all be accurate. You have a tale of two polling sets here. One of them is going to be accurate. The other one is going to be not so accurate, or maybe the answer is somewhere in the middle. It's funny because Morning Compost is actually reasonable. They're -4. And they were a liberal outlier all election cycle. Quinnipiac pretended to get their act together during the election cycle. They're back to their old shenanigans. You have polls like RMG Research, +5, that's probably somewhere in the ballpark of what I would anticipate, like a higher end to be. Qantas has a great methodology similar to ours. They have Trump at 49, disapprove at 48, unchanged from the election. That's most likely what the case is. You have things like response bias. We've talked about summer response bias. A lot of people laughed it off in regards to a lot of these polls, not all polls, but a lot of the polls that we saw from the mainstream media or from these liberal polling outlets, places like Quinnipiac, and they were proven wrong. Eventually, a lot of them came back to reality to save their reputation, or at least as much of their reputation as they possibly could save by election time. But the truth is that the public opinion hasn't changed much. The one issue I feel like you might have some voters I guess you would say a little bit disillusioned on was the whole tariff thing, but Donald Trump since then has kind of struck some intermediate deals. You're not seeing any inflation to date, and Donald Trump's approval rating has rebounded from that point. But even then, I think a lot of that was response bias more so than the tariffs. Maybe the tariffs played into the response bias. Yeah, you probably did have some, Trump voters go soft disapprove, and now they're back to soft approve, which is why his approval rating has gone up. But it's like you have this phenomenon with response bias. And I think some of it has to do with what's going on because the left is energized about the fact that Donald Trump is deporting illegal aliens out of the country. And this is partially why the Democrats overall are being looked down upon because they take the wrong side of every 80-20 issue that they possibly can. Maybe it's not 80-20, maybe it's 60-40. It doesn't exactly matter. The bottom line is mass deportations have surged in terms of their popularity, and Democrats have decided to die on the hill of Trump deploying the National Guard to put out riots in Los Angeles as a bad thing, when in reality, most people support it because you have civil unrest and you're sending in the police. Gavin Newsom says Trump sending in people when he wanted people to be sent in is some sort of escalation of conflict, which is ridiculous gaslighting from a dollar store sociopath like Newsom, a used car salesman who's trying to grift his way to the 2028 nomination, which, it's a good deal for him to pick a blatantly garbage position in order to do so, because that's where like the median center of the Democrat voter is in 2025, but also 2028 come the primaries. It's not going to likely be much different. And you have 60% approving of Trump's National Guard deployment nationwide. And Democrats are saying that this is like a horrible thing that he's doing because you have people who are protesting the government following the law that literally every other country in the world follows. But when we do it, it's a problem because we have a bunch of people here illegally, much of which have come here over the past 5 years, by the way. and we want to get them out because they're here illegally. We don't have people living illegally in the houses of Democrat politicians or squatting on the streets of their neighborhoods. Even they would call the police, they would remove them, as they should. But when it comes down to the rest of us, no, it's a major, major problem that people want to deport illegal aliens who are here illegally in this country, many of whom are criminals, but all of them actually are criminals because they broke the law to get in here, and they should end up being deported, plain and simple. And they've gaslit us so much on this topic. Oh, what about the economy? What about the crops? What about all this stuff? You've doubled the illegal population in the past 5 years, and the economy went down the toilet in the process. Now we see a lot of self-deportations in the economic data, and now the jobs numbers for native-born Americans, which were negative in the Biden era, now are turning positive again. Interesting to see how that actually works. Very interesting. But it's not just that. You look at other polls we see, the Trump administration's effort to deport illegal aliens, this even says illegal immigrants, which you could argue is going to have more of a bias for the opposed compared to saying illegal aliens. Obviously, if they say undocumented, that's going to create even more bias in opposition to the deportations. But asking this question, it's kind of neutral in the way it's asked. But even then, 58% favor the deportations, 37% oppose. And this is right as the ICE raids are happening in Los Angeles. And even the YouGov poll, which is very liberal in terms of its bias, but 54% support Trump's plan to deport all illegal aliens. And 53% believe he's prioritizing dangerous criminals. But even so, these are people who are here illegally. Criminal or not, they're technically all criminal, but obviously you want to prioritize the criminals and then get everybody else out. And 42% believe that the program is making people in the U.S. safer, 30% less safe. I don't know what planet those people live on. But even then, independents, it's like 50-50 in a very liberal sample poll when it came down to CBS YouGov. So altogether, you can see that people want mass deportations. They do. And the Democrats are choosing to die on the worst hills possible. They have lost appeal to men. They've lost appeal to Hispanic voters as well in the process. I mean, they'll get like the La Raza types. They'll still get a big chunk that will, oppose the deportations or whatever. But that's not entirely what's driving a lot of, Hispanic voters to vote in the first place. It's not a top issue. The economy is a top issue. Many of them support the mass deportations because all these people are being dumped in their communities, the legal communities, all the illegals. They want them out. That's partially why Trump won a record share of them. He didn't run on amnesty like Bush to get 30-some%. He ran on mass deportations and won Hispanic men outright. Like, a lot of people don't understand the dynamics behind what drives these voters, but it's true. There's no real thing to be gained by Republicans being weak on this issue. Donald Trump showed them how to win. He gave them a playbook, and now they need to codify his agenda so they can bury the Democrats in 2026, because they're going to be going into this election, and we have a poll from Signal that's relatively sensible in terms of its other top lines, and it shows that the Republicans and Democrats are tied at 47 in the 2026 generic ballot, which is roughly around what I would anticipate, a very close race. Democrats will be favored in certain places where the turnout dynamics help them of a midterm year, and Republicans will in other places. But the bottom line is that you have all this blue wave wish casting. They're expecting it. And then again, what's going to happen? They'll wake up the next day. Republicans will still hold the Senate, probably have a net gain of governorships. And the House is still probably going to be too close to call because of a lot of seats that will not have finished counting yet, for better or worse. And there's a good chance the Democrats won't be able to flip the House when it's all said and done, which would be an abysmal fire festival. I mean, they've tried to get Trump now. It would be 11 years at that point, and to get even more egg on their face would be absolutely epic. But the Republicans, regardless of 2026, need to pass through Trump's agenda, make sure that they're able to go out there and do that as soon as possible. And if Republicans do their job, you talk about the Democrats being at 21% approval, it's like, yeah, I can't really see them doing that well in the midterms if that holds up. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.